Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people that want the best info, but just don't have the time. Get your podcast fix with the Cliff Notes versions of your favorite podcasts. No fluff, just the actionable golden nuggets. Having this much knowledge at your fingertips should be downright illegal. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with SatoriPrime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Performance Enhancing Podcast with your host, Ilan Ferdman. So if you haven't signed up to our PEP list, which we basically send you a recap email once a week about this week's shows, make sure you head over to performancepodcasts.com. That's podcasts with an S at the end. And when you do that, you can even pick up 6 hours of subliminal training. That means that using this training, you can go to work on things like speed reading, memory, and even how to be more decisive through subliminal messaging. You just turn it on and you listen to it. So make sure you go ahead and grab that. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to our show and you listen to it via iTunes or Stitcher, we've made it really easy for you to do that. Again, you can go over to performancepodcasts.com/iTunes if you prefer to use iTunes. And if you prefer Stitcher, again, performancepodcasts.com/Stitcher. And remember, we have new episodes coming out every Monday and Thursday morning, so make sure you check those out. Lastly, I just want to let you know of a couple of things. If you want to keep up with everything that we do here at SatoriPrime, you can always just head over to our main site. It's SatoriPrime.com and roam around. We have a ton of free content and we constantly update it. And if you're looking specifically for some mentorship, maybe around your marketing efforts, or specifically on how to use Facebook paid marketing to, let's say, double, triple, or even quadruple your business, then we have a couple of masterminds we run that can absolutely transform your marketing efforts in less than 90 days. So all you have to do if you want to check that out is head over to SatoriPrime.com/mastermind. All right. So now let's talk about today's show.
Well, hello again and welcome back. So today is the final part of Harry Duran's podcast Junkies interview of SatoriPrime. Hopefully you've been enjoying the first two parts. I keep listening to this over and over. I'm just keep laughing to myself about how absolutely good this was. I don't know what it was about Harry. I mean, he really brought out like the best version of us that I've probably ever heard recorded. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it. So in this part, we're going to look at what it would mean if you could think like a child and not be bound by the limits of reality. We look at how education will change over the upcoming years, or I should say how we hope it'll change. How to stop regurgitating and start critically thinking, and what vulnerability means and why it's the key to your success. And if you struggle with being vulnerable, we actually share with you how to experience where you're not vulnerable and go to work on that and ultimately unlock your true self, which is what Guy and I are always talking about. So enjoy this final part of our interview on podcast Junkies, and we'll talk real soon.
I mean, I was just sitting here, and this is not the first time this idea has popped out of my mouth, but I would love to develop children think tanks, right? Like we put all these smart people in a room, but they're bound by their education. They're bound by like I'll give you an example. In our business, I'm the technical guy. So like I've built all the websites by hand, like all the technical stuff. Elan's way more on the relationship side. So when Ilan first got into the business, he doesn't know anything. He's not bound by the technical aspects of what you can build and what you can't build. He's just throwing out fucking crazy ideas left and right and center. And I'm sitting there like fuming with him because I'm like, to him, that's 3 seconds out of his mouth. And he's like, duppa. For me, it's like 3 months sitting in front of a computer trying to figure out how to develop that idea into something that's practical and real. I'd be like, do you know how much work you just gave me? Like that stupid 3 seconds out of your mouth. But it's actually what's helped us grow our business at an extremely high rate because he wasn't bound by the same parameters that my mind was bound. So it's kind of the same thing. Like I would love to put kids into a think tank and be like, here's a global problem. Get kids answers from it because they won't be bound by the reality that an adult is. I was just telling that with somebody else.
They might actually come up with some cool shit.
No, it's incredible. I mean, if you've ever read those things where like kids give answers to like adult problems, it's always like, man, it's, oh my God, I would never thought of that.
Simple.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your opinions on college, because I know you guys touch upon that on one of the episodes. I mean,
another brutal topic in the Ferdman household.
Yeah.
It was funny. I was actually listening on my way to drop off the kids when I was yesterday, and Z100, a radio station, actually had that exact conversation. Here's what was funny. They were asking people what they went to study in school and what their actual careers were. So I'm just going to kind of like, from what I remember, but here are the top three. One guy went to study history. He now drives a truck for a living. Another guy went to study finance and communication, carpenter. One person went to school but was unemployed, and they're all still preaching about the value of school. And I'm like, are you fucking listening to what you just said? And then one guy finally got on, and he, went to school, got a career, but he's like, look, I've never done anything in my life where I've showed up and what I studied in school has made any difference in my work. In other words, once I started the job, they taught me how to do that job. He goes, I don't understand why we can't go back to the way things were, where it was apprenticeship style. And it's like, you know what? I love this. I'm passionate about this. I'm going to go study with that guy. And this book that you probably heard me talk about in my podcast, Robert Greene's Mastery, talks exactly about this. It's like, spend 7 years learning from someone who's a master at something. You're going to be damn good at it. And then your creativity and your thought processes and your imagination is going to take what he knows, package it with everything that your brain works, and just take it to the moon. So like, you can do that. I guarantee you there's not a person on the planet that you couldn't pay $100,000 to take an 18-year-old kid today and work with them for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. I almost guarantee it, because as a master, if I knew someone else was passionate about that thing, and I knew he was going to play balls to the wall, and I knew there was a time and a money commitment behind it, I'd spend my time doing that. So basically, the only thing that I can understand as a argument for college is the fact that the experience is amazing. Like, my 4 years at the University of Rochester were amazing. Did I learn much? Nah. I didn't learn anything academically. Yeah, I'll say that. I did learn about myself. I learned how to drink. I learned how to experiment with certain drugs.
Which can be important later on in life.
Important. I got to travel. Like, I got to live abroad in Spain. And I will say that hands down, that 5-6 months of my life was the most educational personally. Like, I learned the most about myself. I learned about other people, culture. It opened my mind. I'd rather give my kid $25,000 as a startup money, go to Europe, get a job, enjoy Europe. Like, travel around Europe, finding odd-end jobs. You'll learn more in a year doing that than you would, in my opinion, in a university.
Yeah. So is that what's in the works for your kid then?
Well, that's the part, we're talking about balance, right? Yeah. So like, my wife is still like, we got to send him to school. And this is everyone's argument. It's like, well, what's the backup plan? I'm like, what fucking backup plan has a degree ever bought you? Like, I just don't see. Okay, so say
it's just market. It's just really good marketing. It's like
really good marketing.
Universities, colleges. I mean, it's a good marketing machine. And if right now, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, I was watching. I get more news from like Daily Show and like those kind of shows, like Bill Maher and stuff. But honestly, that's like more real than the real news, honestly, because it gives you perspective on something in a provocative way. And they were showing statistics about like colleges like ITT Tech and these like for-profit colleges. Essentially, it's disturbing. It really is disturbing, and it's becoming like just churn and burn. But I mean, I look at college; it was really good marketing. They use fear tactics. I mean, like right now, looking at language marketing, what they use fear tactics. They tell you that they show you statistics on how much more a person earns over a lifetime that doesn't. And granted, when you're talking about like the blue collar space, the white collar space, if you want to be a worker bee, go to college. Yeah, you're going to make more money doing that. Like, without a doubt, it's going to open the door for you. It doesn't guarantee shit though. And honestly, I've never used my education. I can't think about one moment where I'm like, was good. I learned that. I mean, besides like 5th grade math, not even like 3rd grade math, which is what we still use today. I'm like, I don't know why I need anything else. The only other exceptions I can think of is doctors, right? Like if you want to, if you really understand that you want to specialize in something, yeah, like I don't want a doctor who's been in school for 3 years.
Yeah,
like,
you probably want an educated doctor. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. But again, it's like, you don't like, I have a friend who wanted to be a pediatrician after he went through business school at Boston College. You know, this kid graduated with honors, went to business, didn't like it, left there. Remember that at 7 years old, he wanted to be a pediatrics, went to medical school, starts carving up bodies, you know, looks at the coding for insurance companies because they've coded everything. So it's like, you know how much money you can earn potentially based on how insurance companies coded stuff. Had to take out a $250,000 loan because his parents would never pay it off on themselves. Realized not in a bazillion years could he be a pediatrician and pay off that loan. And then became a what's it called? Say again?
Podiatrist, a foot doctor.
No. The person that puts you under.
Oh,
Anesthesiologist.
Yeah. Not because he's passionate about it, but because it's going to pay off the loan. So even the thing he found that he was passionate about couldn't even go do it. I'm like, what kind of a fucked up system do we live in that's what's happening? So like, for me, here's how I see like education changing. Number one, spiritual education, meditation, life education. Like, here's what you're going to deal with. Stop lying to the child that at 18 you come out and there's like roses blooming out of your ass. Like, life is hard. Life is hard, and it's going to be like challenging. Like, understand that things don't come easy like they do on an iPhone. Like, teach this stuff to people. At 12 to 13 years old, every kid should have a business. Yeah. Whatever you like. You like making soap? Make soap. You like taking a shit over here? Try to turn that into a business. I don't care what you do. Just try to sell this to somebody, because you learn communication skills. You learn persuasion. You learn how to
interact with people,
inspire people. Yeah. You learn the things that actually matter when you get out into the world and you talk to somebody. You gain confidence talking to women, whatever the fuck it is, right? Just get in a situation that forces people into failure as soon and as quickly as possible, so they get really comfortable with that happening to them. And it's not like, I'm bad, like I'm bad little boy. That crap needs to stop.
I think there's a girl. Go ahead. You're talking about shit, but there's a girl that, I don't know if you listen, there's a podcast run by like a 13-year-old. He interviews other entrepreneurial teenagers, like young kids.
I know there's one called, I was literally thinking about this as he's saying it. So it's just funny. We're like, there's one, this guy named, I actually interviewed him. His name is Jordan Agoli. He's a teenage entrepreneur, but he's 20 now. He was 19 and now he's 20. So I don't know if there's someone even younger doing it.
This is younger.
Yeah, okay.
He interviews like 12-year-olds or he interviews 12 and 13-year-olds. So this one girl you're talking about, like, you shit somewhere, pick it up. This girl, her parents started asking her questions like, how do you think you can help the world? What do you think you can serve your community? Like things like that, and had her start pitching ideas. She realized that people walk their dogs and like crap is left, on the streets and stuff like that. So she offered to go around, and they made her like go knock on people's doors, and she built a business around going around her community and picking up like dirt and shit and all that stuff. She started making like $1,000 a week just within a few blocks, and she was 12 years old.
Wow.
And I was
like $1 million as a 12-year-old.
I was like, that will outweigh any college education that any kid is ever going to get.
Absolutely.
And this is my idea. This is what I'm trying to pitch to my wife, just to kind of put a bow on this whole thing, is I would rather give my kid, say by the time my older kid is going to college, presumably it'll be like $100,000 a year. NYU, my friends just put their kid in NYU, is $66,000 a year. That's not including her going out and drinking in New York City or having to buy the million other things that she's going to need to buy. 66. I was like, huh? So let's assume $100,000.
That was your best. That was your best Scooby-Doo, right?
Yeah, Scooby. I'd rather give my kid $100,000. Well, the plan would be like this. You come to me with a business idea, investment idea, a business idea, something. I will give you $100,000. You spend all year trying to make that $100,000 create some sort of revenue for yourself. And you know what? I know that the first two, he's going to lose every single penny. I know. But on the third one,
or the fourth one, that kid will be a millionaire. Or a very, very successful, he will have started a very successful business.
Yeah.
And that might not be his last business. But that's what guys saying, like through that failure in a very concentrated, fast area, like you're going to get some really good life lessons, some really good business lessons. That's what people need. And if I can finance that, I'd be more than happy to finance that.
Yeah. I mean, by far and large, the most interesting people I meet today are the ones who were homeschooled and started businesses when they were young. It's a completely different quality of person. Completely. And then I look at everyone who's in school, I'm like, you have zero ability to critically think.
Yeah.
You watch the news, you repeat the same 3-worded buzzword of the day that got sent down from the government to tell all the news media agencies to tell you, and now you're going to regurgitate it back to me like it's your opinion. I'm like, you've never done anything for this planet outside of doing yourself, and maybe you bought like a toilet paper roll for your like next door neighbor at some point in time, and that was awesome. But it's like
it wasn't even 2-ply.
And it wasn't a 2-ply, you asshole. No, but I mean, seriously, it's like, and we got to take a step back and think again, like, who are we going to be? Because the way that we're being is a virus right now. Like everyone's scared about Ebola. We're Ebola.
Yeah, we're the biggest virus on the planet right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. It's like everyone's so scared of Ebola. We've had 2 cases so far. Heart disease is killing 750,000 people a year. Nope, we're not going to do shit about that, though. We're not scared about that.
Yeah.
Let's not have a worry about that.
It's a good fear thing.
Yeah, it's a good fear thing. So it's like, again, like everybody take a step back. Who are we being? Who do we want to be? Is this what we were made for? I mean, I look inside of myself and the answer is like a vehement, like I want to vomit when I think about the way that we're operating today. And if you don't feel that way, that's fine too. Look, contrast in every part of life. But for those of you guys that are looking at the world like I'm looking at, there is so much beauty in it, and we're destroying a lot of that. And it doesn't mean it's all gone bye-bye. There's still stuff in this world. There's a lot of shit too, and the shit's always going to be there. But I think we've come to a time where we've evolved as a species, but the archetypes of the past, if you want to think about it, like the software has evolved, the hardware hasn't evolved. Mm-hmm. So the software can't run on this hardware anymore. So the archetypes of the past, they don't allow for the possibility of what we've created, what people are creating everywhere all the time, all these movements. So it's like, I only see one solution. The shit's got to go.
A reboot,
like, and I'm not talking about a revolution. I'm not talking about a revolution. Yeah, I'm not talking about a revolution. I'm not talking about violence or like pitchforks in the streets and fires everywhere. Leave it all the way it is. Just let's stop giving power to what we've given power to. And it's just a choice. Tomorrow we wake up and we go, you guys have no power. That really is it. They have no power.
Yeah.
None. You don't show up to work. What are they going to do? Government shuts down. Also, that's it. It doesn't take very much, guys. It really doesn't. So we just have to choose.
That's profound stuff, man. It's a lot to chew on and a lot to think about, like the paradigm shift that's going to be required for people to move from a mindset where they get their information spoon-fed to them about what they should be doing next and who they should be listening to and they should be following / voting for, to understanding that all that stuff is actually a facade and it's just the stuff that's been propped in front of our face to kind of keep us busy from critical thinking, which is what we need in order to effect the change that we want to see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well said. Very well said.
Powerful stuff. So I don't know. I'm at a critical junction here. Like I could keep going, man. This is SatoriPrime. This is amazing, man. I'm having a blast. I'm telling you, man. This is awesome. Maybe we should do another one.
We can do another one.
I got a million questions for you guys, man.
We can do another one.
I want to go.
I'm open to one more question.
Yeah. So let's. Oh man, gotta make it good here. What I love about the show and what I love about you guys is your transparency and your vulnerability. And so talk a little bit about why you have decided. You talk about some personal shit on the podcast. You had a fantastic episodes 53 to 56 with Stella Grisant, and she was with Happiness. I forgot the name of the site that she's with, but you guys vibed immediately and you had her back on and you went deep there and you've gone deep in your beer talks. So talk about the importance of being vulnerable.
Oof.
Wow. Well, you just started a whole other podcast.
and if you're going to pick one question, that's a good question.
Okay. Why don't you go, guy?
Me? Okay. I was about to go get myself a Quest bar while you talked. Man. Oh my God. I mean, in my life, so I talked to you guys about like the depression, suicide stuff. At 19, that cracked completely open. Like I just went from being one way to completely different way. Like transformation took a second for me, right? And I'm not saying like the path of transformation is very long. It's going to be a lifelong journey. But from going to thinking one way to thinking a completely different way about things took 1 second in my life. And I remember the exact moment, the smell, the sound, everything at the exact moment happened. And literally from my right foot lifting to my right foot landing, by the time that foot landed, I knew I would never be the same human being again. It was that quick. And it was just like that, just like an epiphany. Because of landmark. So what I learned that weekend was sharing the deep, dark stuff that nobody wants to share is the access to something. What that access was, I didn't know at the time. But as I went down that road, I realized that everybody I talked to had something in common, which was when we give each other compliments, it's so funny because we strive for it, like we work for them, like we want the acknowledgements, and then we get it and we go, I don't want it, right? Like we contract the moment we hear it. It makes us feel really weird. And I'm like, what is that weird ass phenomenon? Because I know, like in the back of my head, I'm like, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. Then I get it. I'm like, I don't want that attention. Like I want attention in a specific way. It's weird. So I'm like, okay, what is going on over there? And for me, the way I distinguished was that I had this little voice in my head that when someone would tell me that my greatness or talk about my greatness, it would be like some version of, if you really knew me, then you wouldn't be saying that, right? And I've shared this with countless people, and everyone has that look that you just had in your face too. Like they get wide eyes, like that recognition of, holy fuck, I'm doing that too. And I've noticed that everybody has this thing. So whatever that is, what I've learned is there's this story you have about you, like your identity story, right? And somewhere in there is some deep, dark shit that you'd never tell anybody about, because your impression is, if I tell you some deep, dark shit, you won't want to be around me anymore. Like that'll be, like you'll cut it off. Now, here's the funny part about that. When you share that deep, dark stuff, the exact opposite of what you think is going to happen happens. Instead of people moving away, they come in like bees to honey. It's fucking insane. And then you're like, now you have to deal with the fact that everybody wants to be around you all the time. And they didn't run for the hills because they're like, I'm going to tell us they're going to run for the hills. And then they're like sticking to you. And you're like, holy shit. So that was what it became access to, is like, you want to earn listening. You want to impact people. You don't even have a choice. Vulnerability is the access to impacting people. The reason why politicians can't impact the world, there's zero vulnerability. Do you know why they stand behind the desk? Because if you saw what their feet and their hands are doing, you know that they'd be lying the entire time. If you put a glass desk in front of a politician, nobody would vote for that asshole, ever. Because the whole thing is one big lie. It has to be. To be in that situation, you have to lie. So for me, it's if you're not willing to be, and that's why we curse, by the way. Same thing. Like, I know it gets people the wrong way. I know most people will they'll be like, oh, these guys are great, but they curse too much. Yeah. You know what? Fuck you. You're not my type of person. It's just not who. Then okay, if that's all it takes to rub you the wrong way, Jesus is that way.
The message,
right?
This message is not for you.
Yeah. Exactly. And I don't have a problem with any religion. Anyway, my point is you want to impact people. You want to feel empowered. You want to feel connected. You want to understand what self-expression truly feels like and what it is to garner power and be responsible for that. If you're not vulnerable, you ain't even got a shot in hell. So it's, the mission of transformation of spirituality is to just shed the layers, right? Like, I mean, ayahuasca, talk about something that sheds your layers. It's like, it's a fucking coming out party in there. You're like a snake with like the skin peeling off of you. We see the future as vulnerability and storytellers. We met Bo Eason, who's this incredible guy. You should definitely look into him if you don't know him, ex-NFL player. And he just believes in the dream society. It's like the people of the future who are going to lead are the really great storytellers. And you really don't have to look very far into the past to see that those are the people that people followed back then too. Yeah. Shamans and all those people. What were they? Everyone sat around the fires, and the guy who told the stories, that was the leader of the tribe. So it's like, I think we're moving back into tribe mentality. We're moving, like, the DNA is waking up again. Thank God. And we're like, we got to go back to what's important, which is passing down information through storytelling, through vulnerability.
Yep.
Awesome. Very well said.
I was going to say something very, very similar, so I'll keep it really short. I just believe that the only way I've ever seen human beings connect is when all the bullshit is stripped away. That's the only true connection. That is in love relationships, both intimate, friends, all that stuff. Like, think about the way you are with your closest friends. There's no bullshit. There's no filter. That's why they're your closest friends. Intimate relationships only happen when people are stripped down and the most vulnerable. You ever want to see how unvulnerable you are? Put yourself in an intimate relationship. Because like as soon as you are in that partnership, every which way that you are not that is what's going to show up. That's basically your barrier into feeling love, connection, all of that kind of stuff. So for us, it's important out of function. Like the people that we want in our SatoriPrime, we call it the SatoriPrime family, are people that see us 100% who we are. We've been to live events. We do a lot of videos, all this stuff. And the one thing everyone says is like, I can't believe you're this accessible when I'm just sitting with you at a bar. I'm like, well, because I'm the same idiot that you watch on YouTube or listen to on a podcast. Like I cannot, it's too much damn energy to try to pretend to be someone that I'm not. I figured that out a long time ago. Like, and then
preach, brother, preach.
And once you get that, then the whole part about, what Guy said, like people like me, don't like me, respect me, don't respect me. If you don't, for whatever reason, that's fine. We're all entitled to our own opinions. I have no problem with you whatsoever. I love you just as much as I did before you told me that. You're just not someone that's I'm going to relay my message to at this moment. Now, you might shift and something might happen in your life and all of a sudden you're like, wow, you know what? Something they said back then, blah, blah, blah. But the only way that I know how to relate to people is by doing that. And it is vitally important to us. It will never change. We will be the rawest, most insane people in a room. And we love it. Like that's who we are.
Yeah.
We want to give, again, just going back to like that one idea, when you are who you are, whether you're depressed or angry, if you own it, right? If there's a real to it, like a vulnerability to it, an authenticity to it, you can still make a profound difference. We had a mentor when I was 20 or 21, Ilan was 23 at the time. He actually lives out here in Carlsbad. He used to say, I'm an asshole, but I make a huge and profound difference for like whatever it was, like millions of people, thousands of people. And it's true. It's like, we all have those qualities, but so what? Yeah. How is that? How are you going to judge somebody? We all have our moments. I'm a fucking asshole a few times a week, like on a good week, like, but like I've learned how to own that stuff. I learned how to take responsibility for that stuff. So people aren't left with my junk at the end of the day. When I was young, I threw up on you and they'd be like, you clean it. Now if I throw up on you, I'm like, shit, sorry, ego attack. Like I just lost it for a moment there. Like, you got it. I'll never going to happen again. If it does, like, I'll own it again. That's it. That's all that's required of you. So it's not like people just think these shifts have to be really big. They don't have to be big. They just need to be consistent.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Again, we can talk about this for hours, man.
on that note, we are bringing this roller coaster ride to a halt for now, man. We'll catch our breath and we'll have to figure out when the next ride's going to be, because this was absolutely freaking fantastic, man. The energy is palpable in this conversation, and I'm so excited to have had a chance to talk to you guys. And like it's exactly what you said. Like the guys that I thought I was going to be speaking to as a function of listening to the podcast is exactly the same motherfuckers who I'm talking to here, and they haven't changed one bit. It's like so. Be
yourself.
Yeah, be yourself.
Be yourself. That's what the world's waiting for.
Harry, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I had a blast, man. If people want to keep up with SatoriPrime, what's the best place they can find you?
Two easiest places. First and foremost, SatoriPrime.com. Just check out. We have so much free content about everything you could possibly want. Life, business, relationships, whatever. It's all there. And then also the podcast, Performance Enhancing Podcast. You can search for us on iTunes or Stitcher, or you can even find the link in our SatoriPrime.com page. So,
yeah.
So, Ilan, my brother, Guy, my brother, thank you so much. This was fantastic. And
thank you very much.
I want you guys to have a fantastic and blessed day, man.
So that wraps it up. Energy through the roof. Some of the most ranty, beautiful things I think we've ever shared. So if you've gotten value from this, please let us know. Go to our podcast, leave a rating or a comment. Let us know what you thought. Again, you can always email me directly, Ilan@SatoriPrime.com, and let me know how these podcasts are affecting you. Obviously, though, if you leave these kind of comments and ratings on the iTunes, however, obviously, if you leave these comments and ratings in iTunes and or Stitcher, it'll actually help us get the word out on this podcast. So please, if you got moved, inspired by this, head over and do that. And definitely check out Harry's podcast, Junkies, because his other podcasts are also really, really great. Hope you got a ton out of this. We absolutely had a blast making it, and I'll see you on the next Performance Enhancing Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Performance Enhancing Podcast. We've taken this pep talk and created a custom action guide so you know exactly what action steps to take now to grow your business. Just head over to SatoriPrime.com/podcast and download it for free. Also, please leave a comment and rate this podcast on iTunes. It'll help us get the word out. Thanks for listening. Now, go and implement. We'll see you next time.
Did you run through doors till you hit the floor? Did you read my eyes and my aching thoughts? Did you walk through walls till you had to grow? Oh my God, your smile and my soundless calls. Where the ceiling rose,